From the Clark Ford Studio in Oxford, Mississippi, MBW Digital proudly presents the Oxford Exxon Podcast.
I'd say thanks for tuning in, but why am I going to give you a round of applause for something you're supposed to do, to be frank?
And now, here are your hosts, Chase Parham.
And broadcast school has really paid off.
And Neal McCready.
I deserve to be on TV.
Welcome to this Monday edition of the Oxford Exxon Podcast. Chase Parham, Neal McCready, Clark Ford Studio this morning, recapping a weekend that was not kind to Ole Miss in either Columbia and Missouri, as Ole Miss falls 2 out of 3 to the Tigers in baseball over the weekend, and then the Ole Miss basketball season ends Friday in Columbia, South Carolina, as they were blown out by an Oklahoma team that, because of themselves and Ole Miss's defense, couldn't miss for the majority of the 40 minutes. So we'll talk about all that. We'll move ahead a little bit and more today and throughout the week on this here podcast. It's brought to you every single day by the Oxford Exxon, Highway 6 West in Oxford. You know about the lunch specials. Those are $4.99. You know about the stadium cups, because if you get one from Swayze Field, you just keep it in your car. You refill it for 49 cents at any Blue Sky location in Mississippi. Also, the mobile rewards program, the Speed Pass Plus app. So many ways to save money there with the Oxford Exxon and Blue Sky. And again, coming from the Clark Ford Studio.
We are Clark Ford. It's Amory, Mississippi, 662-257-1900 is the number. Call the number. Ask for Corey Clark. Seriously, if you think you're in the market for a vehicle, even if you're not necessarily convinced you're going to buy a Ford, give Corey a call. At least give him an opportunity to give you a quote. Give him an opportunity to at least try to win your business. That does our job for us. It helps us, it helps Corey, and ultimately it's going to help you, because at the very worst, you're going to get a bottom line offer that's going to help you make sure that you're not getting fleeced somewhere else. And at the very best, for all of us, you'll end up saying, you know what, I need to look into this deal with Clark Ford a little more thoroughly. And you'll be thrilled if you do. Corey wants to be your truck guy. He wants to be your car guy. He'll prove it to you. He's done it for me on numerous occasions. It's very great to do business with. The people there are fantastic. Great service. They have delivery options. All of the things that you could possibly want from your car guy, your truck guy. Clark Ford will be that for you. And we'll make it even better at the end of your deal. Tell Corey you heard about Clark Ford on the podcast, and you'll save $500 off the already great bottom line at Clark Ford and Amory. Again, that number is 662-257-1900.
So we'll start with basketball, just because it has ended. Baseball being an ongoing narrative. I have a feeling for a while, but we'll get into that here in a bit. And you were in Columbia. I had gone downtown, was just kind of seeing some people, thought kind of see what the vibe is, get a little more color for this here Potato Lock podcast and whatever else. And I assume it was much like this in the arena, too. The way that things started, I think Oklahoma gets up 12-0. We're not going to rehash the game, but I'm just kind of opening this way. Ole Miss never got in it. So, in some ways, it was the dud of an NCAA appearance, because there was not the excitement or the whatever that you get for just kind of being in the tournament and being in the middle of a game in the second half. But at the same time, there wasn't really any kind of emotional letdown either, because it was never a game. I don't know that Ole Miss ever got within 10 the entire game. You can tell me that at some point. But does the way it happened, does it change anything? Or I think, and I know the answer, I'm just kind of setting it up here, is it's just a matter of, hey, they got some experience, even if it was that kind of experience, and you move on to next year and hope you hit the way in recruiting? Yeah,
it changes nothing. I noticed pregame that one team was tight and one team wasn't. I'll let you guess. I thought Ole Miss looked nervous. It's a different stage. I tell people this all the time. Until you've been to the tournament, you don't really understand the aura of the tournament. And you're a kid and you're playing, and the whole season is built on get to the tournament, get to the tournament, get to the tournament. And then you get to the tournament, and it's different. And they did a great job. University of South Carolina did. It was first class. The arena was cool. Where the media stayed was, I walked. I never even got on the media shuttle. There was no need for it. Anyway, they were. Look, this team. I said it all year, and I made a lot of people angry early in the season. When this team was winning, it won with offense. It was never never, ever a really good defensive team. It was never going to be a really good defensive team. When your post defense is as inadequate as Ole Miss's was, you're never going to be the defensive team that Kermit Davis envisions. He'll get there. I think he'll get there soon. But it was never happening with this group. And then their guards had to play too much this season. I thought down the stretch, Breein Tyree looked tired physically. I had people tell me he was tired mentally. I get it. This was Devontae Shuler's first year as a point guard. At times it showed. I think he's going to be a star in this league. Blake Henson was a freshman. KJ Buffin was a freshman. At different times, they hit freshman walls. And then something that I kind of heard from Blake afterwards, and it's in 10 Thoughts, was he didn't say it in these words, but he had to defer some. You're a freshman. You don't walk in and say, hey, TD, this is my team. You have to defer. And he did. And literally the game was over. He was in the locker room, and he said, I'm going to be a different vocal leader next season. I think you'll see that from him. I think you'll see that from Buffin. Look, this team overachieved. This was not on paper an NCAA tournament team. This was not on paper a above 500 SEC team. The fact that they went 10-8 in the league, the fact that they made it to the NCAA tournament is a brilliant feather in their cap. It is a foundation for a program moving forward. I was happy for Terrence Davis that his career ended in the NCAA tournament. That's where it deserved to end. I just thought Friday was a season encapsulated in so many ways. They couldn't get stops. When it mattered most, they couldn't get stops. Oklahoma made shots. Oklahoma got into a rhythm. Oklahoma got great looks. And when you see as a team the ball going through the hoop gets bigger. It just does. And the better team won, no question about it. And for Ole Miss, it's about moving forward. It's about deciding how much of that core you're bringing back. There's 4 guys for sure who are super safe. They're coming back. There are 2 or 3 others, Carlos Curry, Franco Miller, Luis Rodriguez, who I think could come back. There is some flexibility with the newcomers. It's possible that Rodney Howard, for example, could do a prep school for a year and then show up. They've got some guys coming in. They're recruiting some guys. They're in on some major races. They're in on another one now with Austin Crowley after Bryce Drew was fired and Vanderbilt let him out of his NLI. So they're in on some big-time players. Now you got to close the deal. You got to win those recruiting battles, bottom line. And then I think they'll get in the JUCO transfer market a little bit. They're going to get in the grad transfer market a little bit, maybe a lot bit. And this is going to be a different roster next season. It's going to be one that makes more sense defensively, in my opinion. And it's going to be one that's deeper, that's more athletic. This was not a deep team. This was, 7.5, 8 guys. And it's just hard to win like that, especially when foul trouble is a constant with your bigs. And when on a day when you're playing, you're a senior and it's the NCAA tournament, and this is the only tournament game you're ever guaranteed, and you just don't show. Mind-boggling. But that was that team in a nutshell, and I think when you look at that team and you realize that they made the NCAA tournament, if you're an Ole Miss fan, you have to be excited, because I've said this before and I will say it again. The only way this wasn't Kermit Davis's worst team from a talent standpoint is if the program goes to hell in a handbasket here in the next 15 to 21 months. And I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think he's going to win some recruiting battles. I think they're going to be a good program. I think next season they're going to be deeper. It's going to allow them to rest some guys a little bit. It's going to allow them to establish some better rotations. This was a Band-Aid all year, and they made the tournament. And it's kudos to them. They would have had I watched Virginia practice. They would have had 0 chance against Virginia on Sunday. So it would have been over now anyway. It would have been nice, certainly, for them to win a game in the tournament. But tournament experience matters. And if this group gets back to the tournament next season, that core group getting to play that game in Columbia against Oklahoma, who was an experienced team, is going to help them moving forward, no doubt.
We don't shy away from conversations. I'll ask it this way. You mentioned that obviously we're talking about Brakefield, and we're talking about Kaneem Sy and all these different guys.
Yeah.
Ole Miss, one of the main programs that maybe is the beneficiary right now of all this FBI stuff?
Yeah, for sure. They're definitely a beneficiary on the deal at LSU.
Because Sy had Ole Miss and LSU kind of final two, right?
Yeah, and I think it was LSU was the one, and I think it's flipped.
Okay.
They've benefited from the nightmare season at Vanderbilt, potentially. They have absolutely benefited with the FBI stuff as it pertains to Brakefield. People are right now a little scared. But now Brakefield is not reclassified yet.
Yeah, what's the deal there? What's kind of the holdup? Because it seems like we've been using that same sentence now for 120 to 150 days.
The holdup is that he's people are going to get furious.
Yeah.
He wants to play in the McDonald's All-American game. He wants to play in the Michael Jordan game. He can't do that unless he plays his senior year. He's a kid, and he's grown up watching those games, and he wants to play in those games. And Ole Miss is trying to convince him, you're a pro. You're going to be a pro. It's better to come start playing in the SEC now. Play 18 SEC games. Come play 18 SEC games now. Bang with some of the better players in the country and develop your game. But as of this moment, he hasn't pulled the trigger on reclassifying. And it's not a done deal. I know people are out there saying it's a done deal. It is not a done deal.
Is it done from the standpoint of red tape? I mean, if he makes the decision, is it automatic? Or is it just a matter of a decision?
It wouldn't be automatic, and I think the people at Huntington would like for him to stay, and I think they could make it problematic if they chose.
But that would not be on their behoovement, considering their status as an elite prep basketball school.
Yeah, it's probably not something they would do. So they're probably going to do more of the verbal stuff, trying to talk him into staying another year. But no, if he were to come in and say, look, I want to go, yeah, he could go. It would be somewhat red tape, but they'd get through it. And we'll see. I mean, I think in the end, if you made me guess, and it's just a guess, so if you hold me to this guess, you're just being a jerk. If you made me guess, I'd guess he's at Ole Miss in the fall. But I wouldn't put a bunch of money on it.
Who else is with him? Like, who else is in on him?
Oh, I mean, a lot of people are in on him. Kansas and Kentucky to a degree. And, there's a lot of schools that are interested in him. I think Ole Miss has done the best job. They've recruited him literally to the max. He would step in and play a role instantly. He knows it. It's a program on the rise. The one thing that Ole Miss got the most out of, two things from this season, this program will really benefit from. One, people are going to be looking forward to basketball season. The day before Thanksgiving, the day after Thanksgiving, Ole Miss plays a really big football game on Thanksgiving. There's going to be as much interest in the basketball games in New York the day before and the day after as there will be in the football game. Kermit Davis and this team won the fans. The pavilion was fun. I think they'll sell a bunch of season tickets. I think people will be excited, when Butler comes to town next November, whatever it is, or December. I don't know the exact date. And people can be excited. It's going to be a big crowd. It's going to be a lot of, like I said, the environment's going to be much better. And then, two, this woke them up on the recruiting trail. Kids now look at Ole Miss and go, you know what, that might be kind of cool. I'm interested. And that's a game changer.
it's a positive, just perfect storm for Ole Miss in so many ways from a basketball standpoint, because now they've got to close on someone in recruiting. It's they've got to hit on these. You can't fall out but the thing is, the floor is like a 6.5 on people being excited. But then if you get just one win, not even necessarily Brakefield or somebody else if he doesn't reclassify or whatever, but it just takes a little bit of recruiting success for that really to, as you talk about, jump up to a 9.5, where it becomes the main story potentially at that point of the calendar year, if you will.
Oh, I think if I told you that they got Kadeem Side, Jamin Brakefield, Austin Crowley, and one grad transfer.
Oh, well, now it's a 12.
I think people are just absolutely counting down the days, which would be fun. And I don't think that's out of the question. In fact, I think there's a real solid shot of that scenario.
Is Cy announcing at any point? Do we know what the schedule is there?
I don't know. Basketball's so different than football from just kind of the way it's done. The signing period's about 3 weeks away-ish. We'll know soon.
Where's Crowley from?
He's from West Point, right?
Is he?
And then he went out to Sunrise. He was out there. He was out there with Blake Henson for a year.
I'm asking all the questions the casual basketball fan asks because I have no idea.
And frankly, I didn't know until Friday that Ole Miss was in on Crowley because he was signed with Vanderbilt. I knew they were in on him originally. It was Vanderbilt and Ole Miss, and I think Minnesota sounds right. I don't know. It doesn't matter. It doesn't. But I know that he was in contact with Blake and with different guys at Ole Miss, and I know that he was impressed with what Ole Miss did, and Vanderbilt did the right thing and let him out of his NLI, and so that's got some movement to it, and he's a guy who would step in and play. I don't think they're going to do a lot of project taking. Curry was a project. They liked what they got out of him. Howard is a project. I don't think there's a scenario, for example, where they keep Dom, keep Curry, and bring Howard in now. I don't think that's – I think that would be too big of a roster risk. Like I said all along, I expect turnover. I expect lots of turnover. I expect attrition. They weren't talking about it in the immediate aftermath of Friday's game. But I would suspect that this morning the page has turned. That they got back late Friday. I'm sure that everybody kind of took a weekend off and caught their breath and reflected a little. And I would expect things will move forward here pretty quickly.
We will continue with everything in 1 second. First, we'll tell you about Scripted Jewelry, scriptedjewelry.com. Again, just go to the website. Go to it. Check it out. Scroll down because it's got one of the better websites you'll see on showing you exactly what they have, what they're about, what they offer. You can personalize that perfect gift for that special someone in your life. Everything from new arrivals to the recent work was really the cool part, where you see what people have purchased. You see the final product. You see the exact messages they put on different items, what those items look like. They've got really high-quality pictures of them. So go get some ideas and use Scripted Jewelry. And when you check out, save some money in the process. Rebels10, REBELS10 is the coupon code to save 10% with scriptedjewelry.com.
Guests will join us this week on the Patterson and Earhart hotline. Patterson and Earhart are attorneys at law. They specialize in personal injury law and real estate law. But, guys, they're a general practice, and they can handle just about anything. If you think you have a legal issue, no matter what that legal issue might be, there's no risk here. Give them a call, 662-526-1992. Ask for John Calvin Patterson. Ask for Wes Earhart. You're going to get one of them on the phone within the same day, guaranteed. The consultation's free. Find out whether your legal issue is something that you should pursue. Find out if it's something you shouldn't pursue, which would be good to know as well. Just get in touch with them. Let them help you, and they will. And then it's really all you have to do. It's PELaws.com. Again, the number 662-526-1992. And again, your initial consultation's free. Warm weather is on the horizon. With it comes the inevitable debate of sock or no sock with your loafers. Save your feet and your shoes from making their own impression by stepping into spring with some no-shows from Dead Soxy. You really need to experience the difference a quality sock makes. It's the first step in dressing for the job you want and not the job you have. So go to deadsoxy.com, enter the code Rebel Grove at checkout to receive 30% off all orders, including sale items. These no-shows are great. They're the same quality that you already love and enjoy with the traditional dress sock, and they come with their no-slip guarantee. DeadSoxy.com. Check out the no-show collection, and remember to enter promo code Rebel Grove at checkout for 30% off. All orders. Will be taping a soft verbal presented by Dead Soxy at some point this week, so we'll get that to you and let you know when to expect it after we've sort of made a plan. My column from Columbia and this podcast also sponsored by Pinnacle Trust based in Madison, Mississippi. They've got clients in 25 states. What they do is they provide detailed, specialized investment management, financial planning, retirement planning for individuals and businesses, and much more. Pinnacle Trust, they treat investing like a commodity. Decisions are made using objective information and research, not emotions. They sit down with you. They listen to your goals. They listen to your dreams. They study your expenses. And then they put forth a comprehensive, detailed financial and retirement plan that's just for you. Pintrust.com, P-I-N-N Trust.com. Mention you heard about Pinnacle Trust on the podcast. You'll get 10% off your first year's fee.
Podcast also brought to you by Community Mortgage, Oxford, Memphis, Soto County, and Chattanooga. All underwriting and processing is done in Memphis. So your local underwriting understands your market. Pretty big deal there. Also a leader in condo financing in Oxford. Ask Jason about the float down option, which allows you to lock in the current rate, but if rates go down before you close, you just get the lower rate. 662-234-2704 or JLOWE at communitymtg.com. You know, we were talking about just kind of you and I many times over the months about how Kermit and the basketball winning sort of took some pressure off Ole Miss baseball to kind of find its early season form if the first few weeks because of the tournament, because of excitement around Kermit's Rebels went well. It's sort of, they were using up the emotional capital, if you will. But now with the season over, Ole Miss has its worst weekend of the season, losing 2 of 3 to Missouri. In Columbia, losing both bookend games. They win on Saturday because Doug Nikhazy in his first weekend start throws a gem. He takes a no-hitter into the 7th inning. Ole Miss wins the game 3-0. But in the other 2 games, Ole Miss just continues to do the things that gets them beat when they lose games. I mean, it's really, in a lot of ways, simple. As much as we want to make things complex, as much as we want to really deep dive into different topics, they're not consistent enough in any phase of the game, from pitching to offense to defense, and it's never one thing that bites them, but it's one of those things really, really often, and they seem to have one of those games a weekend that the other team does not necessarily play well. They just play better than Ole Miss, and that gets them beat. Ole Miss at 3-3 now in the SEC. They go to Fayetteville next weekend before coming home for pretty much a month. They've got one road trip to Auburn in April, but they're home for the majority of April. You know, 3-3 on the surface isn't bad, but it's not good when you've played the 2 teams that are the least talented 2 teams in the SEC and you're 3-3. It's a warning sign. I'll let you kind of lead me through this if you'd like in a second, but
I'll get right to it.
Yeah, go ahead.
So you said weeks ago,
I did.
You said anything less than 4-2, and frankly, they needed to be 5-1 after these first 2 weeks because of how talented the league is. What's coming up? They got to go to Arkansas, who I don't know what they did yesterday. I know they were 4-1 going into the day.
They took 2 of 3 from Alabama, so they're 5-1 now.
So Arkansas is 5-1. They're very good. They were a dropped foul ball away from winning a national championship a year ago. It's a strong program. They're very good at home. It's going to be a challenge. Like I've said all along, frankly, you could play well there and lose 2 of 3. You could play average there and get swept. So they're 3-3 after the first 6. You said that was, like you said then, a warning sign. How much trouble is this? Let's not go. We'll get big picture in a minute. Let's talk about this team. How much trouble is this team in right now today at 3-3 in the SEC?
Well, look, right now they're in considerable trouble. And this was taken well. I give fans credit for this. I wrote this on the message board a couple days ago, and everybody pretty much agreed with me. I've got a very patient deal with baseball because I've seen a lot of Mike Bianco teams. I've seen a ton of college baseball. It's a season of small sample sizes, and that works positively and negatively. But I say that in saying this. There have been several teams at Ole Miss that's known as some of their better teams that have gotten off to really slow SEC starts. So that puts me on hold to go, oh my God, 2 weeks in, everything is over. You look back, 2006, they started 1-5 in the SEC, they finished 18-12. You look at 2014, which is maybe their best team in school history that finished third in the country. They started 4-5 in the SEC, including getting swept by Alabama, and then finished 19-11, won the SEC West, and moved on from there. The 2016 team, maybe the biggest change in this, they started 2-6. They were 2-6 in the SEC and went 18-12 and ended up hosting a regional. So there have been examples of really poor play early, then figuring it out and moving forward. With this, it's more of just a feel because they're struggling a little bit everywhere. They're sort of average all over the field is the problem for Ole Miss right now. And yeah, it's certainly a warning sign. They're in trouble because, and this is hard to quantify. This is not a tangible thing. It just feels like everybody's reaching. Everybody's kind of pressing a little bit. Everybody's searching for something. And that goes with, I think, some of the players trying to do too much. I think some of the players, not panicking, that's too extreme, but just not necessarily playing within themselves, making some mental mistakes, making mental errors, not playing situational baseball at all from guys that have been pretty good situationally for most of their careers. They are having maybe one of the worst seasons to this point against left-handed pitching. Ole Miss went into the week hitting .240 as a team against left-handed pitching. They saw 3 of them this weekend against Missouri and didn't fare very well in a couple of them. And then I think from Mike's standpoint, I think he's struggling to figure out his own team. I mean, he might argue with me. He might tell me I'm wrong, which is cool. But I just see him kind of having a hard time figuring out what to do from a lineup standpoint. And again, as I said, I'm not a guy who goes, oh, the lineup has to be set this one specific way, and that's how you win. And if you move just this one guy over here, that makes all the difference. I don't buy into that a whole lot because, if you bat a guy 2 instead of 3 in college baseball, he gets about 8 more at-bats over the course of the season. It's not a large number. However, lineup construction does matter from the standpoint of who's hitting, and when you kind of spread them out and you get so many more outs at the top of the order. I mean, Ryan Olenek is absolutely Ole Miss's best hitter right now. He's still hitting above 400, I assume. I don't have a stat sheet in front of me. But he's hitting 5th. He's got to hit higher up in the order. He's trapped right there at 5th because I don't care about taking pitches. They're going to bring in some relievers. No starter is going to throw 145 pitches, and you got to go, hey, if we don't really work him, he's going to pitch the whole game. Get up there and hit. Olenek does that, so they've got to get him up in the order. It just feels like Mike can't find the right roles for everybody, which at this point of the season is a little bit of a change. Usually he does a lot of tinkering early, and then by now it sort of settles into, okay, here's the 9, here's the 10 guys, here's the rotation. Maybe you have one flame out in the rotation, but for the most part you know what you're doing. And it just seems like offensively, defensively, on the mound, he's still searching for the right 9. He's still searching for some continuity. And, we can look at it and go, well, it's baseball. They're only 22, 23 games into the season. Well, as I said, college baseball is such a small sample size. That's half the year. I mean, it is what it is. There's no time for this long, drawn-out thing when it comes to an SEC season that they've got to put up a pretty decent record. The West is absolutely going to cannibalize itself. The SEC West is tremendous. The SEC East incredibly struggling right now. And Ole Miss has already got one of those series against the East out of the way, maybe the worst East team, and they lost 2 out of 3 in that one. So, yeah, it's concern. It's concern that Ole Miss has lost a number of non-con games that it has because of what's still coming up on the schedule. They've got a very pivotal one this week at Memphis, too, with that standpoint game. They really just have to win to keep some of those larger goals in place. You can't go and, 18 and 8, 17 and 9, whatever, in non-conference play. So no, it it doesn't feel right. And I know that seems like such a cop-out because that's not giving some tangible reason, but I sense a lot of pressing. I sense a lot of just sort of struggling to put it all together. And when you get to the halfway point, and we're saying that, I do think that's a pretty hard push on the the concern button. But I think I still have Auburn as the time to really assess where this thing is. That's 6 weeks into the conference season. That's after they played a few home series against Florida, who right now is really scuffling. They're 1-5 in the SEC, although they've played Mississippi State and Vanderbilt, so I'm not really sure how much to hold against them at the moment. And then it's after Kentucky, who has been frankly abysmal in SEC play to this point. I think they might even be 0-6 in the league. So after they go to Auburn, let's see where they are, because that's 18 games into the season, and if they're anything worse than 9-9 at that point, I think we can start having maybe a different conversation.
So the things that are going well, Etheridge is pitching well.
Etheridge has been tremendous.
Nikhazy was very, very good on Saturday and has basically been very good all year.
He has.
Cooper Johnson's having a terrific season, really all the way around.
He is.
What are the other positives you can take other than kind of those three that stick out right away?
Austin Miller has been nails in the bullpen. He's been very good. I don't know if anybody expected him to be the top bullpen arm. And, you look at it from the standpoint of Mike not knowing what to do. He used him on Friday night in a game that they were losing. So he was basically burned for the weekend, throwing somewhere between 35 and 50 pitches on a Friday night in the game they lost. So he wasn't available on Sunday when they were trying to hold it together right there. Zach Phillips comes in and gives up 3 or 4 runs, and they fall behind and lose the rubber match.
In fairness to Mike here,
yeah.
On Friday night, if you only give up 2 runs, you should feel like you're going to win the game with what they thought they had offensively.
Yeah, I get holding the score where you are. I completely understand it. I'm just saying, in hindsight, you lost the game that you were losing. It's not maybe fair, but at the end of the day, they're having a hard time finding arms.
Which is what gets me to my next question. What's the bigger issue, the lack of depth in the pitching staff or an offense that just gets shut down routinely?
It's offense. No, that's what's crazy about this thing. From just looking at SEC games, because that's what matters. It's the offense that's been the problem. Ole Miss won an SEC game 1-0. They lost the game 2-1. Even in the games that are a little more high scoring, they just go silent at times. I mean, you look at yesterday, I don't think Ole Miss ever really put anything together, never closed the gap in the 7th, 8th, or 9th inning of a Sunday game against a Missouri team that's not deep in the bullpen. You should be able to get to some of those bullpen arms. In the game they lost to Alabama, it was 8-6, and Ole Miss had a 5-run inning in the 2nd or 3rd inning. They didn't score again the rest of the game other than 1 earned run. So they're just having these huge gaps where they don't score. It was an offense that was predicated on, hey, they're going to string a lot of big innings together, and then the thought process going in was, hey, 8 or 9 of these guys can hit the ball out of the ballpark. You're going to kind of see the bloop and the blast. It's going to be at least as much as you can with BB core bats, a little bit of gorilla ball. They've got a little more speed than maybe some years, and they're going to stress people. They're just not doing that. There's a lot of empty at-bats. Like I said, they can't hit left-handers at all other than Ryan Olenek and Cooper Johnson, who's having a really good years against left-handed pitching. They just can't seem to find enough at-bats strung together to really put much together. It seems like they'll get a hit, and then they'll go silent for 5 straight at-bats. So, no, it's offense for me, and then frankly, it's defense. They had another issue on Friday night with another first-inning error. The first inning set the tone. Ole Miss gets 2 guys on with 1 out. They don't score. Missouri gets out of it. And then in the bottom half, they get out of the inning, and instead of ground ball in the infield, ends up being an error. A tough play on turf, but still an error. Leads to an unearned run. Missouri's up 1-0 instead of Ole Miss being up 1-0 or 2-0. And the margin of error is so small. Like you said, you can go to Arkansas and play just average and get swept. You can play well and lose 2 out of 3. That's going to be like that every single weekend. So when you don't make the winning plays, when you're making mental mistake errors, when you're not situationally hitting at all, you're just struggling to put the ball in play, to put the ball where it needs to be, to hit a little jam shot over to right field or something to get a run in. They're not doing those things. And baseball's made up of so many little things to be successful. It's just little thing after little thing after little thing after little thing. And Ole Miss is not doing enough of those. And it's not even really the record because, yeah, they're 3-3 in the SEC. But when you look at it objectively, They've given 2 of those games away. I think on Friday they gave that game away, and then I think they gave away the game against Alabama on Saturday where they just didn't play well. And that's the deal. If they had just won those games and just lost yesterday, we'd be going, okay, 5-1, all good. Go to Fayetteville, give it your best shot, and get home for a month. But when it looks like you're just giving them away, when it looks like you're not either focused or you're pressing, or I'm not in their heads. I don't know exactly what it is, but when there appears to be something mentally that is a barrier, or there's something keeping them from excelling to their fullest potential, I do think that's a problem given the way the schedule's set up, and it's something they've got to fix quickly because, you look at, I mentioned Florida's at 1-5, you've got Kentucky at 0-6, you got Carolina at 1-5, you've got all these teams that, we thought were pretty decent coming into the season. That shows you it can tailspin. So if you don't play well every single weekend, you will get beat, and for Ole Miss, it's time to figure it out because a couple more weeks like this, and you might be in a hole that's too big for you to crawl out of.
Yeah, I mean, I think they've just got to go get look, I'm with you about the Auburn deal at the end. That's 18 games. You'll have a much better feel for where they are. You can't go get swept now in Fayetteville. I mean, you get 3-6, and it's going to be difficult to climb out of that hole. At some point that you would hit the panic button then. You got to make sure you go get one there. And I think the thing that would worry me from an Ole Miss perspective is, like, you see the Auburn and Mississippi State series where they play all sorts of different kind of games, including one that everybody it was like a Little League game. Everybody scored 30 runs or whatnot.
State beat Auburn 20-15 yesterday.
I'm being hyperbolic, but yeah, I don't know that, from what I've seen at least, that Ole Miss has an offense that can do that in an SEC game. And that's, you have to be a great team, you have to win different kinds of games. You have to be able to win the low-scoring game. You got to be able to win the high-scoring game. You got to be able to win the crazy game. You've got to be able to win the adversity game. That's kind of the deal. And here's what's going to be interesting to me is from a big picture standpoint. And I don't want to, I'm like you, I don't want to do a lot of this at 3-3 in the league. So I don't want to get too big picture because, like you said, at 3-3, this thing could go any number of directions, including a very positive direction. I mean, it's this going 18-12 is still not out of the realm of possibility. That's would be, 15 and I'm not good with math.
9.
Yeah, I mean, it's doable. It's doable. What's interesting to me is if this weekend coming up in Fayetteville doesn't go well, when this team comes home, it's got the Grove Bowl weekend, and it's got another weekend, and it's got double-decker weekend, and there's some things built in to help them with crowds. But if they're not winning, a lot of those overflow crowds just become good crowds, and good crowds become average crowds, and it doesn't have that atmosphere that it's had in past years. So, I mean, I'm not trying to make the Arkansas weekend an end-all, be-all, but if it doesn't go well, and then the Grove Bowl weekend, if they don't win a bunch of games, I think starting that Sunday of the Grove Bowl weekend, you could see a difference in the way that the park looks.
Yeah, from a crowd standpoint, there are 2 weekends that stick out to me. And those are Kentucky, April 12th, 13th, and 14th, because, like I said, that's 6 more conference games from now before that starts. And kind of see where they are. They play 2 very good baseball teams. They play Arkansas and they play Florida. Florida team that you got to think eventually is going to find itself a little bit because it's too talented not to. And what does that Kentucky weekend look like? The first week or the second week in a row at home, the week after the Grove Bowl, a couple weeks still from Double Decker because it's the normal crowd weekend. You know what I mean? You don't get those steroids coming in to help you out with the crowd a couple times.
Yeah.
What does that crowd look like? And then the next one, to me, is Mississippi State. Back in Oxford, not just after Double Decker, but after that LSU series. They go to Baton Rouge. Do they win their first series down there since '82? Did they not? What the State series looks like coming back, because State might be in really good shape nationally. I think they're ranked like 2nd or 3rd in the country or something this morning. I don't know. So what does that look like? It's also the home finale And why I have that one pegged is, look, it's way too early for any way big picture coach stuff. It is. It's just way too early. They're 3-3 in the league.
Agreed.
So I'm not saying that. I'm just painting this of that is such a critical weekend for whatever sort of that last bit of regular season momentum is, from a crowd standpoint, from a Q rating standpoint, from a believing in the program standpoint. That is a huge weekend, with it being Mississippi State, with it being the last one, and then it being right there before they go to Tennessee to close it in Knoxville. Because look, I can paint a number of different things. I can paint a situation where Hayden Nikhazy might be the secret sauce and the answer on Saturday. Etheridge has been great on Friday night. Hoagland's a freshman and he's still finding himself a little bit. He does not have, I've said this so many times, he doesn't have the convenience of so many summer league games and trying to learning how to pitch and all these things. He just doesn't have it that some of those other guys do. He's still transitioning, and that's going to make for great days, and that's going to make for days like Sunday where the fastball got elevated a little bit and things just didn't go well. And those are the days where Ole Miss offensively, frankly, is going to have to bail him out. He's the guy you want on Sunday because he's not handling it poorly mentally. He's just handling it from a transitional standpoint where there's good days and bad days, and there's a couple days in there where Ole Miss is just going to have to out-hit the opponent. Make it work, get into their other bullpen, and then score a bunch of runs. So if Etheridge and Nikhazy can somewhat manage the bullpen and can be really, really good the first 2 days, look, this team can win a lot of conference games. It's not incapable from a talent standpoint, by any stretch of the imagination. Now, I will say this, and I don't want this to get misconstrued, and it probably will because everything does. But I do want to make notice, and God, I'm having a hard time even phrasing this because it's more complex than we have time before we're going to a break or coming out of a break in a second with. Actually, let's go to it and then give me a little time to flash it out. We'll go to this in a second because when I say it, it's going to get everybody all up in arms, and I want to be able to fully explain myself when I do this because I don't know. I need to figure out how exactly I'm going to say it. But anyway, podcast brought to you in part by Mastercuts Lawn and Landscape, 662-607-7773. Time now. It's going to rain for a couple days, and it's going to get sunny again. That yard's not going to be mowed. Let Mastercuts handle it for you. You can get a free quote with a call or send them an email at info@gomastercuts.com. They have everything from custom playground building to decks, fences, patios, all sorts of stuff they take care of with Mastercuts. They're going to plant some trees for me here pretty soon, different things. So Mastercuts Lawn and Landscape, mastercutslawn.com. Again, tell them we sent you, and it's 662-607-7773.
The podcast also brought to you by the Westin Jackson. Restore serenity to your soul. Visit Soul Spots, the ultimate luxury spa experience in downtown Jackson. Indulge in personalized massages, signature facials, soothing body treatments, and much, much more on their extensive spa list. Escape from the everyday. Rejuvenate yourself in their luxury spa today. And then gather at Estelle Wine Bar and Bistro, sip on a creative craft cocktail, or enjoy their curated wine list. It's open for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and Sunday brunch. Chef Caden's mission is to connect guests with the community through local partnerships, so gather at Estelle tonight. We're also brought to you by John Edwards, Regency Travel Incorporated in Memphis. So you know how this works. Everybody's pretty much through spring break. Everybody is starting to think about summer vacations, maybe even starting to think about holiday trips, that kind of thing. Get in touch with John. He's part of Virtuoso. It's a worldwide network of travel partners that allows him to supply his clients with added values, unique benefits that are simply not available to other travelers. What you do is you give him a call, you give him some parameters, you give him a budget, and he'll give you some options. 901-494-3387. You don't have to live in or near Memphis to take advantage of his services. And those options you get, you're not going to find those on your own because you're probably not part of Virtuoso and you probably haven't traveled the world for 37 years. J. Edwards at regencytravel.net. First-time clients can save $50 off their first booked trip just by telling John you heard about Regency Travel on the podcast. And it's a podcast that's brought to you by Grenada Nissan. If you're in the market for a Nissan vehicle, that's the place to go, just off Interstate 55 in Grenada, Mississippi. Grenada Nissan has a complete selection of new and previously owned Nissan vehicles. Go in, test drive one today. Tell Gene and Sandy that you heard about Grenada Nissan on this podcast or at rebelgrove.com. You'll get Rebel savings on top of the already great deals at Grenada Nissan. It's Grenada Nissan, USA.com.
Podcast is brought to you by Blow Dry Bar Oxford, 662-638-3310, 1801 Jackson Avenue, 10 to 6 on Tuesday to Friday, Saturday 10 to 3. And we've been telling you for a couple days, they do men's haircuts too. You don't have to be a woman to enjoy Blow Dry Bar Oxford. You can also get $5 off by mentioning Rebel Grove. Call and make an appointment. I do not need a haircut yet, but next time I do, I'm going to go in, check it out, be able to give you the first-person account of how that goes, but I've heard some good things so far. Again, 662-638-3310, and if you are looking for something for the woman in your life, remember, go in, get the gift card, and they'll help you out there as well when you mention Rebel Grove. So again, 662-638-3310. So anyway, here's where I'm going with this, and this is multifaceted, so I want to kind of get a break out of the way. Ole Miss has enough talent on its roster to win enough games to be nationally competitive. Period. The end. Let me get that out of the way first. Ole Miss has the number 1 ranked recruiting class. It is currently juniors, which is the, one of the 2 money years when it comes to college baseball. You want your sophomore class to be loaded. You want your junior class to be loaded because those are your oldest guys that are still incredibly talented on a national level, and that's also the guys that are very, very talented, have experience, and don't have the pressure of the draft coming up in the end of the year, because that's a real thing too. Point being in all that, Ole Miss is dealing with just stuff right now that frankly makes this group not as talented as it maybe is on paper. I think that's what some of this is about, is they're kind of struggling to find guys that are succeeding and putting it all together in a number of ways, because that sophomore class, you and I have talked about this a lot. You want your sophomore class to be really, really good. You want that sophomore class that has a lot of experience, has a lot of talent, and is just kind of playing. They're still sort of in the college baseball phase, if you will, of things. Well, Ole Miss is really only getting 2 guys out of that sophomore class to be really, really good. They're getting Tyler Keenan, as we knew. He's been a star since he got on campus. He's been excellent. And then Anthony Servideo. They're not really getting anything else out of that sophomore class. Max Chope's been good at times. He's been fine, but he's a reliever. Tim Elko is hitting over 300 since he started the year 0 for 14, but he's not getting consistent at bats. Jordan Fowler has regressed a little bit this year. There's just not much there. And then when you look at a junior class that in a lot of ways became the number 1 class because of the certain guys that just aren't playing well. You look at it and, Dillard's had a slow start in SEC play. I think some of that's a little bit of being unlucky. I think some of that is probably trying to hit a lot of home runs. I think there's a lot of different elements to that. Gray hasn't played well for the majority of the season. And then Houston Roth's injured. Greer Holston has whatever's going on with him. They've got nothing out of Greer. He was a top 100 kid out of St. Stanislaus or IMG or wherever you want to call it. It's almost kind of a deal, and what I'm getting at is there's a lot of accolades, and it's kind of a prettier roster at the moment than maybe it is in actuality or actually in function. And again, they still have plenty of ways to win. I'm not saying that. This is not an excuse. But I do think when it comes to it, this class thing and this number 1 class and all these things, I think unless they handle it the right way and the kids can just play, I do think it becomes somewhat of a mental burden for them to overcome. And it is what it is. It's big-time boy college baseball. Go play. But I think there is everybody talks about, hey, Monday was this day that's still happening to Ole Miss. And I don't think they wake up every day and go, oh, my God, we blew our chance against Tennessee Tech and we are done for our college careers. I don't think that's the case. However, and I'd have to ask Gray and Thomas and probably have to give them truth serum to get an accurate answer here. I think what it has done is increase the finality of this season. It's created more of an environment of, hey, we're in probably our last college years together. We're in that kind of that legacy building year here. I've got a quote from Thomas that I'm running in something that I'm later in the week or first of next week, whenever, where he does talk about, hey, this is the moment that we've got to make something happen, and you've got to handle that right. If you don't handle that right, that becomes a monkey on the back. That becomes pressure, and that's where the coaching staff, that's where Mike's got to do a good job of massaging that. That's where the team leaders have to do a good job massaging that. It's a little bit of a, not a combustible situation, but a very odd situation, just kind of with the roster makeup, everything going on around them. I don't know, in a game where everything's supposed to be really loose, where it's, hey, 56 regular season games, you have time to fail before you succeed. kind of really just go into it with a little bit of a laissez-faire attitude in a lot of ways. That's not what's going on. I feel like every game, even in March right now, just has this weird pressure about it, and that's not a recipe for winning baseball, Neil.
No, that's a recipe for disaster. You can't play baseball that way. You can't play baseball with the football mentality. It won't work. It doesn't work. The season's too long. You're going to have weird games. People who are successful in baseball really don't remember yesterday. It's over. I mean, there's like a 30-minute rule, and everybody talks about having a 30-minute rule, but only really successful teams obey it, honor it. That you celebrate for 30 minutes after a win. You can mourn for 30 minutes after a loss, but then it's flushed. You're next. And just relax and go on about your business. And look, you're around them. I'm not. But I've been around that program some before, and it has a tendency to get tight. It does. That part's undeniable, and I know people will deny it, and people will say, well, Neil, you're not ever out there. How would you know? Fair point. I've talked to people who are. They all say the same thing, that they look tight. And you can't get tight in March. Hell, you can't get tight in May, but you damn sure can't get tight in March.
Yeah, I mean, I was not there. I did not go, but Louisville was the first time that I've heard kind of people go, hey, they really need to just chill a little. Just calm down, just play it. There was on that Wednesday in Louisville, there was a certain edginess that, yeah, it was just looking at it from the outside in was not a good sign for this point of the year. And that's something they got to fix because, I mean, again, they have the talent to make a run. They're probably going to get Houston Roth back in a more full capacity at some point. Again, they found Nikhazy. There are positives. I mean, there's things trending in the right direction for this program. But at the end of the day, just chill. Just play. Don't put so much pressure on yourself over every little thing where every ground ball becomes this major issue that you might boot it or whatever. I think, if anything, they need a little freedom. And whatever it takes to get that freedom is what might turn this thing around and put them in a little better situation moving forward. So... yeah, that's where we are. I mean, there are 24 league games left. There's plenty of time for this to go in any direction.
Sure, absolutely. Like I said, I mean, it's not out of the realm that
that 2016 when they were 2-6, I thought they were awful.
Yeah, no. They could go to Fayetteville, play well, and get 2, and come home and get 2 from Florida, and then we're having a completely different conversation.
Yeah, you look at it and go, go sweep Kentucky, and you can go win the West.
Yeah. But the other side of it, and it's one that is worth acknowledging, is that they've played 2 of the weaker teams on their schedule, and they're 3-3. Arkansas's good. Mississippi State's really good. Auburn appears to be really good. Alabama will at least be pesky. Ole Miss already played them. I'm sorry. LSU will be pesky. A&M is good. No one's going to hand you anything.
No, the only potentially bad baseball team left on the schedule are the Kentucky Wildcats.
Yeah,
potentially.
So it's like I said, I think you got to go to Fayetteville and make sure you get one. Get one of those first 2 and see what happens on Sunday. You don't want to get into that situation where you lose Friday, lose Saturday, and they're trying to gut you on Sunday, and you're tight as a drum, and then you have to come home and play Florida and all of that stuff. It's just not it's an interesting weekend. It's not make or break. It's not the end of the world, no matter what happens. But if it goes disastrously bad, you'll be able to see the end of the world from there. And I don't know that this program has the mentality right now to handle that.
They're also facing a Florida team in a couple weeks that most likely is going to get healthy this weekend. The Gators have Alabama in Gainesville this weekend. Just kind of looking at that, moving ahead.
Yeah, the league's really good. It's the bottom line. It's always
really good. Yeah,
it's always really good, and the teams in the West, there's a bunch of them that are really good, and I know LSU's not playing lights out baseball right now, but 99 times out of 100, they get better as the season goes along.
Which is sort of the full circle to this. While it's way too early to talk big picture, that's why there's this level of stress. I mean, that's why there's even if it's just with fan angst and fan base worry. It's why this is here. I mean, it's a program that at the end of the year, if they don't make it, will have been to one super regional in 10 years, and they've never won a road regional under Mike Bianco. So because of that, they feel like, hey, it's kind of like the basketball team. You know, they had one way to win. It was, hey, the guards have to be tremendous. Well, the baseball team sort of has proven over a long time they have one way they get, forward in the postseason. And because of that, once that standing becomes a possibility of falling apart, well, there's going to be extra worry and extra freak out and all those things because they don't have the freedom that an LSU has or whoever to go, hey, whatever happens, just get in the tournament and we'll go beat somebody in the ACC. It's all good, whatever. They're going to get better. I mean, the program hasn't shown that over a pretty long sample size, and that's why everybody gets freaked out in middle to late March.
Yeah.
I mean, this isn't, it's not real complicated.
No, it's fair. It really is. I'm a believer fans can think what they want to think. You're entitled to have a strong opinion if you want to have one. I'm not going to be the one that sits there and necessarily tells you you're wrong. It's hard to win baseball games if you can only win them one way. It was that way with basketball. I mean, like you said, that's a great analogy. They could only win if the guards were super hot. Okay, well, when you miss shots, but the difference is no one expected anything from the basketball team. No one expected even an NIT bid from that basketball team. People like me, who I consider myself fairly informed on college basketball, I consider myself pretty good about evaluating basketball teams. I'm pretty good at it. I thought they'd go 7-11 in the league. Thought they'd struggle to outscore people, and I didn't think defensively they'd be all that good. And they overachieved. And when you overachieve, it feels good, even when it ends quickly in an NCAA tournament. This baseball team was expected to get to Omaha. Let's get real. That's the expectation. Go to Omaha. And so if they severely underachieve, and again, they haven't done that yet, but if they do, hard to change public opinion on that. And that's a conversation that we'll have weeks from now if things continue sort of along this path. It's too early to have that conversation right now, but that's reality. The expectation, let's put it out there, the expectation, fairly or not, was for this team to get to Omaha. In football season, if this team goes 7-5, 8-4, even if some of the wins are ugly and if they don't necessarily look the part, we're all going to be saying, wow, this team won 7 games. This team won 8 games. This team's in the Tax Slayer Bowl. Wow, what an incredible accomplishment. Because the expectation deep down among people is 4 or 5 wins.
Well, and the reason I'm saying that, they were a top 10 team in the preseason. The media liked them. They had All-Americans on the roster because it's where, look, we can have the how they got them to campus, the recruiting, the scholarship debate, all that stuff. We can have that debate, and we're going to differ on some stuff. But where I do agree with a lot of the more frustrated fan base just with the whole era is that once the roster is assembled and once it's there and you have talented players, it's just about winning at that point. It really doesn't matter how they got there or what you know what I mean. Like if you fail at that point, once the roster is assembled, it's still a success or failure depending on what you do during the season. I mean, so you can't, if you have a team that's ranked second in the country with a bunch of All-Americans, you don't really have the ability at the end of the year when you lose to go, well, I mean, we didn't have enough scholarships. Well, you had a team that was ranked top 5. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
sure.
when it works both ways, it's, hey, we can have a whole nother discussion, but it's like everything. We talk about it being and instead of or. Yeah, once the team is on the field and it's a team that should play to a certain expectation level and talent level, that just is what it is. That's really the only thing that matters, at least the rest of the season, and then when we get into the offseason, we'll go back to the other conversation.
It's the Cubs open the season on Thursday, along with a lot of people, and there's a really good story in The Athletic today from Sahadev Sharma and P.J. Mooney about how Theo Epstein basically saying, you know what, it's time that we evaluate guys based on results, not on potential. Not on what we think these guys can become, but what they are. And it's kind of that way with this group. We've always talked about how good we think this group could be, how good this group should be. It's time for them to be that good. And there's pressure in that. And the only way you alleviate the pressure, quite frankly, is to win. So we'll see. I mean, I think these next 2 weeks, and I don't cover it the way you do at all, but just I've covered it for a long time, and I can tell you these next 2 weeks we're going to know a lot.
Yeah.
We're going to know. You mentioned Auburn, and I think you're right. I think that's the place where you can make some real sweeping judgments. But I think we'll have a clue in 2 weeks. By the way they play, by
when Florida leaves town.
I do. I think if they go to Fayetteville and lose 2 out of 3 and come home and lose 2 out of 3, they're in trouble.
Because just on paper in your head, you're going, hey, get to 6-6 now that you're 3-3.
Yes, go to Fayetteville and get 1, come home and play Florida and get 2, and now you're 6-6, and then Kentucky rolls in. And let's say you're right. Let's say they sweep Kentucky. You get to 9-6, and you go to Auburn and you win one of those.
Well, now at 9-6, you're back on 18-12 pace.
That's what I'm saying. Go to Auburn and win one of the first 2 games, and now you're 10-7, and you play this Sunday swing game. That if you win it at Auburn, you're 11-7 in the league, coming home and all of a sudden everything's cool. And that scenario that I just pointed out is not realistic.
You're 11-7 in the league, and you come home and you're going to have a hell of a crowd for Texas A&M.
Yeah, and a huge series that will be fascinating. That is a completely realistic scenario. Now here's another one. You don't get your stuff straight, and you go to Fayetteville and you drop 2 out of 3, and you come home and you drop 2 out of 3 to Florida, who's got a good team, and then you play Kentucky, and you get 2, but you don't get 3, and then you go to Auburn and you only get 1 out of 3. Well, now you're
like 8-10 or 7-11 or something.
I'll do the math. You're 4, 6, 7. You're 8-10 coming home to play A&M, and your margin for error is basically 0.
And you got a trip to Baton Rouge on deck.
The air around your program is fairly caustic. The fans are upset. People are angry. And, and you come home and you play A&M, and you get 1 or 2, and then you got to go down to Baton Rouge where you typically don't play well, and you still got to play a Mississippi State team that's super talented. The deal gets tough.
Yeah. All right, we'll tell you quickly about G&M Pharmacy on South Lamar in Oxford. They deliver local to your home or workplace. They offer MedSync to make sure you get your medication when you need it on schedule there. And we've been telling you about their CBD oil. It is a pharmaceutical-grade CBD oil available in multiple different ways, including soft gel capsules and topical salves. CBD is an all-natural product that helps maintain overall health and help regulate many conditions such as depression, anxiety, pain, insomnia, and more. You can find out more about that or just transfer your medications to G&M. Let a local pharmacy you can trust take care of you. 662-236-2222.
Harry Alexander has been the sponsor of 10 Weekend Thoughts for a long time. I appreciate that. 10 Weekend Thoughts up on the site. They're probably about 10 o'clock last night by the time they got up. They're on rebelgrove.com. That's part of the Rivals Network. You can subscribe to rebelgrove.com. We have all sorts of cool stuff. We cover the teams, and we have an online community and all of that. Cover recruiting and have recruiting nuggets and stuff like that on rebelgrove.com, and you can subscribe for less than the price of a sandwich at your favorite lunch place. Harry is right now working with Savannah Square. It's a new 9-acre development, 0.7 of a mile from the Oxford downtown square. It's conveniently located east of North Lamar, just a short stroll from the Midtown Shopping Center, which houses Snack Bar and Jinsei, and it's near Volta and Oxford Canteen and more. Savannah Square will initially consist of 32 standalone detached structures ranging in size from 1,059 square feet to 2,377 square feet. The model home is available for your inspection. It's located at 215 William Street. These homes have wonderful layouts, impeccable finishes, which you can inspect at the model. So give Harry a call to take a look at the model and get more information about this great new development while they are still available. You can view more at SavannahSquareOxford.com or give Harry Alexander with RE/MAX Legacy Realty a call or text at 662-801-5621. Podcast is also brought to you by Oxford University Bank, OUB, locally owned and operated right here in Oxford. When you deposit money at OUB, that money and the vast majority of the bank's profits go right back into the Oxford community. OUB gives you the comfort of home, all the benefits the big mega banks provide, all the technology and products you can want, all with the personal touch. When you call OUB, you speak directly with the live person. No 10 buttons to push, no 5-minute wait. OUB also offers its customers the absolute best cash checking account. It's called Kasasa. And with Kasasa, OUB will pay customers 2.5% interest on their balances up to $50,000 and refund ATM fees nationwide. OUB also offers online bill pay and mobile check deposit using its online app. To learn more, check out liveoxfordbankoxford.com or call 662-234-6668. OUB is FDIC insured.
So 99.8% of the country was rooting for that ball on the rim to go in for UCF last night, right?
Oh, yeah. And they had a 3-point lead late. Got to close it out.
You know the hatred for Duke is high when we argue about the number of charges that should have been called in a basketball game in the last 5 minutes.
Yeah, everybody hates them. Sorry, Eddie, if you're listening. Everybody hates them. We want them to lose. Coach USA is – I just don't think many people buy a lot of that stuff. It would have been a cool story. UCF is a fun team, and Taco Falls and Johnny Dawkins' kid, who's fantastic. I mean, there's a lot there, but it just didn't get done. And look, Duke's going to get calls late in games. That's part of it. Kentucky's going to get calls late in games. Duke's going to get calls late in games. North Carolina is going to get calls late in games. I don't think it's fixed. I just think officials are human. There's an anticipation that they'll make plays, and UCF had a chance to win it. Didn't get it done.
Speaking of the Cavaliers that Ole Miss would have faced, their road to the Final Four gets easier and easier, doesn't it? Just keeps moving on up. Kind of looking at that. Oh, I guess the 2 and the 3 still alive down there, aren't they? They get Oregon next.
Every 1, every 2, and every 3 still in the tournament.
Every one of them, huh?
Yep.
Yeah, Virginia gets Oregon next in the Sweet 16 rounds, what it was. And then they get Purdue or Tennessee.
Virginia should get there. I watched them practice the other day. They are a good-looking basketball team.
All right, so rank them in order. The SEC team's still alive. How do you rank them to get to the Final Four? You got 4 still alive.
Yeah, I think they all have really difficult roads.
Auburn gets Carolina next.
Boy, it's going to be tough.
Yeah.
Auburn's playing super basketball, but it kind of feels like the end, doesn't it?
It does. The winner of Auburn and Carolina gets Kentucky or Houston.
Yeah. And I like Houston to beat Kentucky.
What's up with P.J. Washington?
He's got a foot injury. Now they're going to try to get him out of the boot and see if he can play, but so much of their team revolves around working through him.
Yeah, they don't have a shot to get there without him, I don't think.
They become really mortal without him.
I mean, they survived Wofford when that 3-point specialist missed like 12 threes.
Yeah, he went 0 for 12. Otherwise, Wofford probably wins the game. They're not beating Houston without Washington. Just not. And if they do, they're not beating either Auburn or North Carolina without him. Tennessee's got a shot because Grant Williams is so good, but we're seeing it already. They just don't have that elite athleticism. And then LSU, trying to remember what their road is.
They get Michigan State next.
They could win that game. Now, they could lose that game, but they could win it.
And then they would get Duke or Virginia Tech.
And they can beat Duke.
Because they have the right athletes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And I know this is sacrilegious. I hate the NCAA so much with their bad tweets and stuff that I want LSU to win the whole damn thing. I want them to win it and then it be stripped from them like in 2 weeks. But I do want to see all of the blowhards, the Dennis Dodds, and all these people who are literally up the cavity of the NCAA just going, oh, you're heroes. Oh, you're just so special. And I want them to have to do their one shining moment with a team that clearly is going to have the title strip just in days. I that's what I want.
Auburn LSU final.
Oh, it moved.
And it's a bummer we can't get Michigan State a little longer out there, too, just for the heck of it.
An Auburn LSU national championship game, I'd have to watch in the privacy of my own.
Now we'd have to mute everyone that potentially works in Birmingham, but yes.
The SEC would have to come and pretend that they were excited. The NCAA would have to play along, and they'd have to do their drop the confetti, and Jim Nance's
had to give his tie to somebody.
Yes, in one shining moment. Oh my God, shut up. I want the whole thing to just become a disaster.
You hate that song, don't you?
I used to love it, and now I hate it. I hate everything they're about. They're a completely flawed. The whole thing's a joke. Look, I know it was an old recycled tweet, but the free Wi-Fi, they're making you billions of dollars, and you even at I was 2 years old. So 2 years ago, you bragged about giving them free Wi-Fi.
What do you like out of the quadrant that still has all four intact? Gonzaga, Florida State, Texas Tech, and Michigan.
Michigan's playing really good right now. So is Gonzaga.
So
Texas
Tech.
Tech is too.
Tech just, annihilated Buffalo.
Yeah, Chris Beard is going to be able, at the end of this deal, no matter how far it goes or how far it doesn't go, he's going to be able to pick up the phone and call his agent and go, yeah, I'm getting a pretty big raise, right? Whether it's in Texas or in Lubbock or in Fayetteville, he's going to probably be able to get 3 schools to bid against each other for his services. Kelvin Sampson's the same way. He's either going to get one hell of a raise in Houston, or that cat's going to end up in Austin or Fayetteville.
Texas running through the NIT. Don't worry about it. It's all good.
Well, here's what I expect. I expect Buzz Williams is going to A&M, and I think Shaka's going to leave Texas and go to Virginia Tech.
Oh, okay. Get back up there in the area.
Get back up in his roots where he has some success, and get out of UT where apparently nobody can figure it out. It's got to blow them away that Rick Barnes has got Tennessee in the Sweet 16 and Shaka's got them in the NIT, and he's going to leave soon. And I don't know who you go get. If you're Chris Beard, is that the job you want? Would you rather have the Texas job or the Arkansas job today?
I would still rather have the Texas job.
I think you're right, but for the very first time in a long time, I'd say, I don't know. I got to think about it.
Who's Bama going to hire?
I don't know.
That's a hard job.
No one's completely ruling out Rick Pitino. Now, I'd love to see Greg Sankey's reaction to that one.
Oh, gosh. Yeah. Lord. All right. Let's see. At rebelgrove.com, we've got some recruiting. We're going to have some baseball. Again, Ole Miss Memphis tomorrow night, not Wednesday night. I had my days all crossed there. But baseball later today, and as the week goes on, football this week as well. So a lot going on at rebelgrove.com, and we'll be back with you tomorrow.